Hello and welcome. My name is Meredith, and this is the home of Spirit of Woman Australian Wildflower Essences. I was called to develop these essences because I've worked for a long time in practice as a mind-body practitioner, and my practice has been largely women's issues. So let me tell you a little bit of my history. I started off training in acupuncture, energy medicine, and before too long I realised the critical importance of emotions and the attitudes that drive emotions in a person's well-being and health. From an energetic point of view, most disease begins in the mind. So it's the attitudes we hold, the emotions that are driven by those attitudes, which actually then determine the state of energy within our body and therefore its subsequent health and well-being. So when I first began in my career, quite way back in 1985, I'd already been in practice for 5 years, and I was invited to lecture at the Australian College of Natural Medicine, which is the precursor to the Endeavour College that you're studying at today. And very early on, I put in a request to introduce flower essences into the curriculum because I could see the absolute critical value. At that stage, I was working with bark flower essences. And I could see how important they were, so they were introduced into the naturopathic department. Shortly after that, when I was teaching flower essences and working with them, I was introduced or invited to work with Ian White of the Australian Bush Flower Essences, and I spent the next 15 years, as well as teaching at Endeavour, which was the Australian College of Natural Medicine, but teaching with Ian White internationally and here in Australia. I wrote a number of his courses, and I was actually honoured to be involved in making up some flower essences with Ian. So I know Ian very well. As my own practice developed and morphed, I was working with women, with babies, working alongside midwives and bringing babies into the world, working with women's intelligence. And I looked around me and I noticed that the world, based on traditional Chinese medicine principles, which is the balance of yin and yang, that's the underpinning of Chinese medicine, and I looked around the world and I thought, I don't see so much of that balance occurring out there in the world. There's a lot of the masculine values represented, such as competition, hierarchical systems, comparing and contrasting, singularity. But I saw a lot of the feminine values of connection, support, nurturing, coming from the heart. I saw those values not being expressed in the mainstream thinking. So I wrote a book called The Essence of Woman. My role was to explore. I wanted to explore the feminine in the world today, that we live in today. And from that early exploration of the flower of the divine feminine, I began to look around me in my beautiful garden, which I've been the guardian of I had been by then at least 20 years. I began to look around in my garden and the flowers began to call me. And I could see that each flower represented the divine feminine in an extraordinary way. Each flower is like the female sexual organs, and the flower in its potent beauty is ensuring the reproduction of its species into the future. I saw that power. So I then developed a range of Spirit of Woman Australian wildflower essences from my beautiful garden. The only intrusion of the masculine that we have, you'll have been hearing through the bikes and the loud noises that come, that intrude into our paradise here on a weekend. But generally, it's quiet, quiescent. It holds the space for the beauty of nature. Birds, plants in abundance in this beautiful little paradise just outside of Brisbane. And so in 2011, sorry, I'm going to rephrase that. In 2009, I introduced my flower essences to the world, along with a book called Spirit of Woman Australian Wildflower Essences. So each of the beautiful essences is about empowering us as women to stand in our biological embodiment and to bring forth those values into the world, so that we balance that imbalance where the masculine values have been overemphasised and overexpressed. Here comes another masculine intrusion. Don't get me wrong, I love the masculine, and I believe that the masculine and the feminine together offer differences which support one another. We like dovetail into one another, just like the yin and the yang. So when I work with the divine feminine, I'm not saying it's better than the masculine. I'm saying that it stands together with, takes hands and walks beside the masculine for harmony, balance and wellness in our lives.